I lent my sister my name and credit to start her bakery. She promised to pay me back in a year. 5 years later, I found out she'd sold the business, moved to Mexico, and claimed I was a stalker. "You're just jealous I made something of myself," she messaged when I confronted her. I almost gave up, until I remembered the contract she signed and the clause that. Back in 2020, I lived in Flagstaff, Arizona. I had a steady job doing medical billing for a local clinic. I was 34, single, and living a pretty normal life. I wasn't rich, but I had decent credit, no debt, and money saved. That all changed because of my younger sister, Rachel. Rachel's always been the creative one. The family screw up, too. She never held a job for more than a year, and she was always chasing some new big idea. Dog grooming, photography, soap making, you name it. She'd move to a new city, try a new thing, then end up broke and calling one of us for help. After our dad cut her off, I was the only one still talking to her. In early 2020, she called me crying. Said she was finally clean, she had a problem with pills years back, that she had this great idea for a bakery in Prescott. She told me she'd found a location already and needed help getting the loan because her credit was trashed. I was suspicious. I asked her to be honest about everything, about the money, about her sobriety, about what she needed. She swore up and down that this was real. "I just need you to help me get started. I'll pay you back. You'll see." She asked me to take out a $60,000 small business loan under my name, and sign the lease under my name too. She couldn't get approved herself. I said no at first, but she kept pushing. She came to Flagstaff to talk in person. She brought cupcakes she made herself. She showed me a notebook full of menu ideas and branding designs. For once, it looked like she'd put real effort into something. I still wasn't convinced, so I made her sign a contract. I typed it up myself, with every detail I could think of. She'd pay me back monthly, and by the end of 1 year she would refinance the loan under her own name. If she didn't, she'd owe me the full amount. I even added a clause about ownership. If she defaulted, I had rights to any profits or resale value from the business. She signed it. I signed it. We got it notarized. For the first few months, it looked like she was actually doing it. The bakery opened that summer. She called it Flour and Soul. She posted pictures constantly: wedding cakes, cinnamon rolls, vegan muffins. The place had a following. People left good reviews online. She even paid me $1,000 every month like clockwork. I thought maybe, just maybe, she'd finally changed. After the 12th payment, she stopped sending money. I called and she said it was just a slow month. I gave her the benefit of the doubt. Month 13, nothing. Month 14, still nothing. I called, texted, emailed. No answer. I drove down to Prescott and went to the bakery myself. The windows were covered in brown paper. The sign was gone. There was a small paper taped to the glass that said, "Closed for remodel, under new ownership." I walked into the store next door, a little gift shop, and asked what happened. The woman behind the counter told me Rachel had sold the place a few weeks ago, and said she was moving to Mexico to live with a guy she'd met online. My stomach dropped. I went home and tried every way I could think of to find her. Instagram? Deleted. Facebook? Gone. Phone? Disconnected. I tried asking around, messaging some people who had commented on her bakery posts. Nobody knew anything. It was like she'd vanished. Then, about a week later, I got a WhatsApp message from an unknown number. "Stop snooping around. You're harassing me. I could report you." It was Rachel. I was shaking. I typed back, "You owe me money. You left me with your debt." Her reply? "You're just jealous I made something of myself. Grow up." That one hit hard. She acted like she was the victim, like I was some obsessed ex or random internet troll. I felt like an idiot. I was getting calls from collections. My credit score dropped 200 points. I couldn't sleep. I stopped going out. I didn't tell anyone, not even my friends. I was ashamed. And worse, part of me still felt guilty, like maybe it was my fault for trusting her. I almost gave up. I really did. But then, while going through my files one night, I found the scanned copy of our contract. I'd forgotten about the last part. A clause I wrote in because I knew deep down she might do something like this. In the event of default or failure to refinance by the end of 12 months, the borrower agrees to surrender any profits derived from the business to the lender and consents to legal ownership transfer of any business entity registered under the name Flour and Soul or its successors. I stared at that sentence for a long time. That was the one thread I had left. And I decided I was going to pull it. I wasn't a lawyer, but I knew someone who was. A guy named Paul, an old friend from high school, now working at a small firm in Tempe. We hadn't spoken in years, but I called him up and told him everything. I sent him the contract. He read it and said, "This is actually solid. You could have a real case here, if she profited from the business and didn't pay you back." I asked him what my options were. He said we could sue for breach of contract, but the trick would be tracking the sale and proving she made money from it. The sale itself wasn't illegal, but the fact that she kept the profits without paying me, that was fraud. First, I needed proof of the sale. So I called the leasing office that managed the building where Flower and Soul had been. I pretended I was a potential tenant and asked about the history of the space. The woman I spoke to was helpful, too helpful. She said the business had been sold to a woman named Alice T., owner of a catering company in town, and she paid $82,000 for it, plus equipment. There it was. Rachel had sold the whole thing for more than the loan. She profited and ran. Paul helped me file a civil suit against her using the contract as the basis. We mailed it to her last known address. It came back unopened. So we went bigger. Paul filed with the court and got an order to investigate business transactions tied to the name Flower and Soul. He found that the account Rachel used to accept payments and credit card charges was still active for part of that final year. She'd earned around $40,000 before selling it. The kicker? She'd never registered the business under her own name. Everything was under mine. That gave me leverage. But here's where it got worse. A week after filing the claim, I got a call from a blocked number. I let it go to voicemail. It was her. Rachel. Her voice was calm, too calm. "You need to stop this. I've got people. You don't know what you're messing with." It wasn't a threat, not directly, but it was meant to scare me. I called Paul, told him everything. He said we needed to be careful but keep pushing. Then the harassment started. Fake Yelp reviews started popping up under my name, targeting the clinic where I worked. One said I was stealing from patients. Another accused me of being abusive to elderly clients. I had to meet with HR. I showed them the lawsuit and explained the whole thing. They were sympathetic but told me to keep my name clean or they'd have to take action. Rachel was trying to ruin me from another country. I hired a private investigator next. It cost me $2,500, money I didn't really have, but it was worth it. He traced Rachel to Puerto Vallarta. She was living with some guy, older, divorced, ran a small beach bar. Her Instagram was gone, but he found a burner Facebook page. She was using a fake last name. She thought she'd disappeared. She hadn't. Paul filed motions to freeze any business assets she had tied to U.S. accounts. We also began the process of seizing Flower and Soul's name and brand, since it was never legally transferred to the new owner. That caused the new owner, Alice, to reach out directly. At first, Alice was furious. She said she bought the place fair and square. But when we sent her the paperwork, her tone changed. "I'm not trying to get involved in your family mess," she said. "I just don't want to get sued." She ended up agreeing to a settlement, $40,000. Not the full value, but it was a start. That's when I realized something else. Rachel didn't just screw me over. She was still using my credit. I pulled all 3 credit reports again and saw a new credit card under my name opened in late 2021, based out of California. Maxed out. $7,800. It was in my name, my SSN, everything. She'd forged my signature. That changed everything. Fraud. This wasn't just a civil case now. I reported it to the police. I filed with the FTC. I started the process of locking down every piece of my financial identity. I called every bank, every credit card company, and added fraud alerts. But I wasn't done. Rachel wanted to disappear, pretend I was crazy, and live like none of it mattered. I wasn't going to let her. I started keeping a binder. Every email. Every bank statement. Every screenshot of her fake Facebook posts. Every message from creditors. I turned my kitchen table into a command center. I stopped trusting digital files. I printed everything. Then, one night around 2 a.m., while I was scrolling through Reddit trying not to lose my mind, I saw a post in a legal advice sub where someone talked about something called a UCC lien, a legal claim you can file on business property when someone owes you money under a contract. I called Paul the next morning and asked if we could do that. He looked into it, and sure enough, because I was the legal signer on the lease, and because of the clause in our contract about surrendering profits and business assets, we could file a lien on all Flower and Soul branding and property. That meant even the new owner, Alice, wouldn't be able to legally operate under that name if we enforced it. That got her attention. Alice called back, pissed this time. "This isn't my fight. I paid cash. I bought equipment, recipes, branding. I even kept the damn logo. I told her I understood. But the contract said what it said. I was the original owner. Rachel never had the legal right to sell it without my permission or paying her debt. We negotiated. She agreed to drop the flour and soul name and rebrand her bakery. We settled on a cash amount, $40,000, and I gave her a legal release from future claims. She wired the money to Paul's office. That gave me the funds to keep fighting. I used the money to hire a second PI. This one based in Mexico. I wanted to know everything about Rachel. Where she lived, who she was with, if she had any assets there. 2 weeks later, I got a full report. Rachel was living in a gated expat community near Puerto Vallarta. The guy she was with was in his 50s, owned a beachside bar. She wasn't working. She was living off him and whatever money she walked away with from the bakery. But here's the twist. The PI found out something I didn't expect. Rachel had filed paperwork to start another bakery, this time in Mexico. Same branding, same name. Pan y Alma, the Spanish translation of flour and soul. Same cactus-themed cakes. Same signature frosting style. She was using my ideas, my name, and even photos from the old Instagram. I lost it. I told Paul. He said we'd have to find a way to tie that new business back to the original US identity if I wanted to make a move. So I dug into the photos. The menus. The logo. Then I found it. In one of her promo videos, posted on her new burner Facebook page, she'd filmed a shot of her bakery menu board. At the bottom it read, EST 2020, Prescott, Arizona. She didn't just copy the business. She claimed the origin, the timeline, everything. That gave us just enough to file an international cease and desist through a Mexican legal contact Paul knew. We sent her an official letter threatening to freeze her new business if she didn't comply and return any profits tied to the stolen brand. A week later, Rachel messaged me again. Rachel, you're seriously messed up. You're ruining my life. I stared at the screen for a long time before replying. Me? You already ruined mine. I'm just cleaning up. She didn't answer after that. But then, out of nowhere, a man messaged me on Facebook. His name was Tom. He was the guy Rachel had been living with. Hey, he wrote. I don't know who you are, but Rachel just left. Took some cash, said she was going to Guadalajara. She mentioned your name. What's going on? So I told him everything. I sent him the contract. The lawsuit. The fake Yelp reviews. The stolen credit. He responded with, Holy sh*t. A day later, he called me. Said he found my name on one of his credit card statements. She'd used his info to open a card in my name. That was how she kept charging stuff. It all unraveled from there. I didn't expect Tom to get involved. But after I told him everything, and he saw the proof, something must have clicked. Maybe Rachel had burned him too. Maybe she pulled the same crap on him that she did on me. 2 days later, Tom emailed me a PDF. It was a screenshot of Rachel's passport. He'd taken a picture of it months ago for a trip they planned. It had her real name, birth date, and a list of all the Mexican immigration stamps. Then, he sent another file. Bank statements from an account he said Rachel used while in Mexico. And there it was, multiple transfers from that account to a US account still listed under my last name. She never even bothered to change her legal name. The account was in both of our names from the bakery days. She just never removed me. That was it. That was all I needed. I forwarded everything to Paul. He was quiet on the phone for a second, then said, We're done playing defense. We filed an international criminal complaint, identity theft, bank fraud, and violation of a civil judgment. Then Paul filed a request with the IRS to audit her business sale and investigate unreported income. But I wasn't done. I filed a claim with the Arizona Department of Revenue. I had documentation that Rachel made money off the bakery, never reported it, and left me holding the tax bill. With my name still legally tied to the business, it was either me or her. I made sure they knew exactly where she was and what she did. Meanwhile, back in Mexico, Tom messaged me one more time. She came back to get her stuff. I told her you were pressing charges. She flipped out, smashed my laptop, tried to run. Cops came. She's in custody. I didn't believe it at first. But then I got a call from the Mexican consulate in Tucson. Rachel had been arrested for passport fraud and was being held while they sorted out charges with the US. They were extraditing her. I showed up at the courthouse 3 months later to see her in person. She looked nothing like the girl who sold me cupcakes and begged for help. She looked mean. Cold. Like a stranger. She didn't make eye contact. Didn't say a word. The judge looked over the evidence, the contract, the bank accounts, the sale, the fraud. He ordered her to pay restitution of $62,000. She was sentenced to 16 months in a federal facility for identity theft and bank fraud. Could have been longer, but she took a deal. She also got hit with IRS penalties. And because she never closed our business account legally, all her new assets, including the second bakery, were subject to seizure under the original contract clause. Her new bakery? Gone. Her bank accounts? Frozen. That old boyfriend? Gone too. She lost everything. But here's where it all really came full circle. 3 months after she was sentenced, I got a letter from the IRS. Because of the seizure and her fraud, I qualified for victim relief. They cleared the business tax debt from my record. My credit started bouncing back. Slowly. I used the $40,000 I got from the bakery sales settlement to pay off the remainder of the business loan. Then I sued the credit card company for failing to verify her ID when she opened that fake card under my name. I won that case too. Settled for $18,000. By the end of it all, I was cleared clean and had a little cash left over. I wasn't rich. I wasn't better off. But I got my name back. And she lost hers. I wish I could say it ended with us reconciling. It didn't. I haven't spoken to Rachel since the trial. She never apologized. Never explained. Maybe she never thought I'd fight back. But I did. And in the end, it wasn't rage or revenge that saved me. It was that one stupid clause I added to the contract all those years ago, not because I believed she'd screw me, but because I knew she might. If there's anything I've learned from this, it's this. No matter how much you love someone, if they've burned everyone else around them, don't think you'll be the exception. People like that don't change. But contracts? Contracts never forget.